January 2017 meeting of the Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals is now open. We have two cases where they are requesting to be adjourned. Number 2944, the Village of Southampton, Gin Lane, and number 2952, Jacquard SH2 LLC, 2 Pheasant Cloth South.
I move we adjourn those cases.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have three decisions. First one being 2937, number 76 White Street LLC, 76 White Street.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2950, George Benedict, 191 Bishop's Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2951, Madeline Lakovich Family Trust, 10 Captain's Neck Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That takes us down to the one remaining case from last month, 2949 James and Mary Callanan, 90 Meadowmere Place. Is there anybody here for that? Mr. Walker.
Chick Voorhees asked us to do some changes to the plans and to put the village wetlands line on the survey. We did the survey work, we did the plan changes that were asked for, and I received a note from Mr. Voorhees this afternoon saying that
You
everything
just
is...
turn that around so they can see it with the camera. We have to do what the cameraman says.
I knew if I put it down one way, I'd be wrong. So there you go. You can see it well that way anyway. So the plans have been revised. The survey has been revised. Everything's done. Mr. Voorhees said that we met all of his directives, so I think we're
I
all
think
set.
we have something here from him regarding that.
Right. That's it.
You ready?
Goes for a decision unless there's any public comment.
Anybody out in the public would like to be heard to this application? Therefore, we'll close it for decision.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Brings us down to the new cases. First one being 2953 Captain's Neck 2 LLC, 465 Captain's Neck Lane.
Oops, she's back.
Jim Walker from InterScience. Brant Reiner from our office spoke with Mr. Voorhees, and I'm to turn in the affidavit and the certified mails and request an adjournment. Obviously, if anyone's here from the public, they could speak, but it was the decision between Mr. Voorhees and Mr. Reiner that we should adjourn it.
They want this adjourned.
We have a memo from Chick, giving his comments and asking for certain revisions to the plans. I think Jim is asking that it be adjourned so that can be done.
That's correct.
I move we adjourn this.
Well, let me get the public first. Is there anyone from the public like to hear of this application? No.
I move we adjourn this case.
I'll second.
All in favor?
When's the date of your next meetings?
Fourth Thursday.
I think it's the 23rd. So the work session will be the 14th.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, he'd worry.
It might be a record.
Quick to sign.
Okay, set a record.
There it is. Present this.
On the application of case number 2954, Anthony Gugliotta, 161 Elm Street.
This guy.
Evening. For the applicant, Robert Fischetti, Furman and Fischetti, 320 Hampton Road.
Haven't we had this case before, this application for a pool here?
Back in 2012, he proposed a completely different pool, bigger, different spot.
I don't know what happened. Did it get denied or did he withdraw it?
He was denied.
How can you come back with the same application if you already denied it?
I would say it's not the same application.
Smaller
It's a
pool, I guess.
Smaller pool, it's in a different spot. This doesn't involve moving the garage or anything like that. It's only one variance instead
You
of...
know what we've been doing lately with pools that don't meet the setbacks?
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I do also understand that the Court of Appeals has held in the past that a zoning board is a quasi-judicial body that is held to precedent to a degree, and, there have been, numerous pool variances in the past, as
Not
you
lately.
know. I understand that, but I'm not aware of any sort of latches or timeline on precedent, which is what brings us back here to propose.
It's called we get smarter the longer we sit here.
I understand that, and I respect that, but
All right.
that is not the way the Court of Appeals has looked at it in the past.
10 feet. Yeah.
But let me put this stuff in to start out.
Are you kidding me? Okay.
So, as you know, my client is Anthony Gugliotta, 161 Elm Street.
Sorry, before you start, I just heard something about a prior denial on this for a pool.
For a different application, yes.
Yeah, I understand that, but you should provide the board with multiple copies of the prior denial and the survey showing what was denied.
I have one copy.
Well, it don't have to be tonight. It's not going to.
Oh, okay, I
It's not
understand.
going to end tonight, but you should provide that so that we'll have that in this file.
Okay, understood. As I was saying, this is a very small lot. It's 7,858 square feet. It's a 40-foot wide lot, which I think is from my review of aerial photos on the town's GIS, a very rare lot in the village to be quite so narrow. So we would be asking for relief, or we are asking for relief from Section 116(9)(a)(10)(c), which is, as you know, the provision that requires a 20-foot setback for a pool. This pool, as I mentioned, is 18 by 10. It's just a little bit bigger than a hot tub. The only one variance that we would be asking for, or that we would require, is from the north property line to a setback of 10 feet. The pool would be tucked in behind the patio, separated from the house to the north by the house to the north owned driveway, which provides a bit of a buffer.
Could I interrupt you on that?
Yes, of course.
Because I know your application only request one variance, the setback from the northerly line, but in looking at the survey, it doesn't show the setback from the southerly sideline. Using the scale on the survey, that's also less than 20 feet. I don't know, I mean, you can't always be fully accurate on the scale, but
I understand.
it certainly looks like this proposal would also need a setback variance from the southerly line, and your sidelines narrow as you go from the street back, so there's not 40 feet of width back where the pool is being proposed.
I believe it.
So I don't know how you could be 10 feet from one, 20 feet from the other, and have a 10-foot wide pool when you have less than 40 feet back there. So we're going to need, if you want to pursue this, we're going to need a survey that shows the proposed setback from both lot lines.
You're losing.
I understand. I see what you mean, that there may be, there is a slight taper in. I think that,
Doesn't add up.
There's a taper.
It still doesn't add up, and it scales well less than 20 feet.
well, if it's 40 at the front and this jog here is only 3 feet. I see what you're saying. I think the surveyor had the 10 feet for the setback, the 10 feet for the pool, and then looking at it as an additional 20, but,
I don't think it is 20. I don't see how.
oh, I understand.
I don't see how it could be.
It doesn't even show a number there anyway.
It's not 40 feet wide back where the pool is. Each sideline comes in from where it's 40 feet at the street. So the scale would indicate a width back here of less than 20 feet.
listen,
So before we start looking at an application, we have to have a survey showing all the necessary data. And if it is less than 20 feet from the southerly line, the application will have to be amended and re-advertised. So at this point, I don't see that you have a complete application to pursue.
I understand. I'll have to go back to well, the surveyor who's taken over for Mr. Buckeye.
It won't have to meet the setbacks, too.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Doesn't even show it, does he?
I don't see where it is.
That's another thing. The survey should show the
The pool equipment.
proposed pool
Yeah, which
equipment.
should comply also, which would put it in the middle of the patio.
Put it in the middle of the, well,
Or in the backyard, I guess.
yeah, I think it would have the option in the backyard. Okay, I understand. The pool equipment.
And sir, you make the statement that this 40-foot wide lot is rare in the village, but it might not be rare on that block. Could you give us a map of the adjoining properties?
Sure.
We do have one letter from the firm of Tarbert and Lester.
Yes,
attorneys at law.
Yes.
They represent Barbara Wilson, the neighbor to the north,
Yes.
and the letter is in opposition.
Yes, I've read that letter.
I've read the letter.
Yes.
We're going to make that letter a part of the file.
I understand. I have 3 letters of support also to add to the file.
Okay?
Yeah, I think we should adjourn this case rather than hearing it because we don't even know what he's asking for.
Then you should have letters for everybody. When you make copies for everybody.
Okay. All right, well, I will come back to you with this information that you require, and we'll take it from there.
Is there anyone in the audience like to hear this case? And we're going to adjourn this for all purposes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you.
When is this?
2955.
The last one.
Yeah.
On the application of case number 2955, DPB Southampton LLC, number 70 South Hill Street.
Josh Rosenzweig from Austin Patterson Distant Architects, as well with Tim Ganedis from Austin Patterson Distant Architects, representing the client.
And Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick, and Bruin for the applicant. If I may begin, first of all, we submitted an affidavit of posting and mailing. We also understand the building department provided us with copies of the emails and letters that were submitted from some
You
of
have
our
3,
neighbors.
I think. You have 3?
Well, at least 3, might be a couple more.
There's a 4th one coming.
Right, and we also were contacted by Mr. Bregman, who is here this evening, and indicated that, among other things, the neighbors need further opportunity to review our plans and provide comment to this board. So that would being said, we understand and would be consenting to any further adjournment for that purpose. In that regard, though, we'd like to make a brief presentation so you can at least understand what the project is in that, and maybe you have some questions. I'm sure Mr. Bregman will want to say something, but we understand it will be adjourned for the next meeting for further comment. So this application is on We're here on behalf of Dawn Pascucci Bernard, who is the principal of DPB Southampton LLC. And we're seeking several variances at property located at 70 South Hill Street in Southampton. It is a corner lot. I'll describe the variances requested, but it's an 8,973 square foot, approximately a little over 2/10 of an acre, located within the R40 residence district. And the property is rectangular in shape, has 65 feet of frontage on South Hill Street and 141 feet of frontage on Platt Terrace, and a lot width along the south property line of a little over 62 feet. In the certificate of occupancy, latest updated certificate of occupancy issued September 23rd, 2016, the property is improved with a valid pre-existing non-conforming two-story single-family dwelling with front stoop, greenhouse area, and rear brick patio. And we did provide you with a copy of that CO. We also provided you with a copy of a prior zoning board decision, which this board granted and allowed the greenhouse area, which has been incorporated into the project and opening part of the habitable space of the dwelling. The existing two-story dwelling has approximately 1,796 square feet of floor area. The property does not meet any of the R40 setbacks. Currently, the dwelling is 41.8 feet from South Hill Street, 14.1 feet from Platt Terrace, 57.5 from the southerly line, and 12.8 from the easterly line. And as you know, the R40 zone, even though the lot is pre-existing, single and separate, smaller than the zoning, and the code actually grants relief to certain setbacks, rear yard, side yard, et cetera. The one area of relief that the code does not provide is on the front yard. So in this zone, the R40 requires a 60-foot front yard and any accessory structures on the property to be 70 feet.
You've got two front yards.
We have two front yards.
Yes.
So the proposal here, and the gentleman here will describe to you that project, but basically the plan is to demolish the existing house and build a modest two-story house that we believe is consistent with the neighborhood in its place. And in fact, you'll see the habitable space is actually increasing the setbacks from the three of the property lines. And we're also proposing a swimming pool and propose a shed to house the pool equipment. We located that in a place that's actually between the pool and the street, behind a hedge, in a shed, to minimize impacts to any of our adjoining neighbors.
Does that conform to the setbacks this year?
None of this conforms to any setbacks because, again, any accessory structure requires a 70-foot setback from the street, and therefore we're requesting several variances which are listed in the petition.
Does the pool conform to the setbacks?
Again, the pool would not because, again, it's supposed to be 70 feet from the street.
Essentially, the lot in itself has a very small buildable envelope.
We understand that.
Everything.
So I'll let these gentlemen maybe describe to you the project so you can understand it, and then I'll get back to part of the zoning test.
Our client is also in the audience as well, so this is a personal home for her, and I'm going to hand out a few mini sets, and I'd like to tell the board that everything in here is an exact replica of what you've received. We just thought it would be easier so you wouldn't have to flip through the large format pages, but there is no new information in that set whatsoever. Okay, I'll let you all get that first. See on the cover page. As you can see on the cover page, and before we get into a bit of the character of the neighborhood, you can see a little bit of a 3D rendering of the house, and with that I'll let Tim describe a little bit of the aesthetic and why its place in this area fits within the character of the neighborhood.
Okay. Because of the very close adjacency to the boundary of the Village Historic District, we've selected a very clean, classic colonial half-house style with rather simple massing.
Rotate that around.
Sure. I got it.
We believe it's in character with the spirit of the architectural heritage of Southampton Village and the East End as a whole. It's a relatively modest house for current trends in Southampton. The ground floor consists of,
If you all turn to page A101 on the mini sets, you'll see the first floor and second floor plan.
first floor consists of entry hall, living room, small powder room, butler's pantry area, and then an open kitchen dining room. The second floor is 2 bedrooms and a bath, and a master bedroom with an ensuite. And then if we flip to the previous page, in the cellar level, there are 2 bedrooms, bringing the total to 5.
All with egressable spaces to get out of the building. All off-street parking regulations are as per zoning regulations. I'd like to mention as well that this project also meets the lot coverage requirements. It also meets the GFA requirements. We had brought in an additional document that might answer a few questions about the overall GFA. We are under the overall allowable GFA, and the attic level of this building would not be considered actual habitable space based on the actual height from the roof rafters to the floor based on the half-story regulations of the Village of Southampton. I'm going to hand these out as well. It's a nice diagram. I'll also put one in front of the camera so the audience can see it. Let's just get it in front of the camera here.
On the table?
Put it on the table and facing us, that way you can
Okay.
have a good picture.
There you go.
So as you can see from this diagram, there will be no more than 7-foot maximum head height at the ridge in that attic level. So therefore, according to the village code, it would be excluded from the calculation of gross floor area as a half-story. And any windows are there for aesthetic purposes and don't denote any intention of having it be any sort of living space.
I'll let everybody digest that graphic real fast before I present any other diagrams.
This diagram came up as a question of whether or not the attic area met the definition of a story and whether that contributed to floor area. We provided this and reviewed it with the building inspector, and he confirmed that this does not add to the floor area requirement, and so we're just submitting it for the record as well.
I can see everybody's shuffling the paper, so I'll give you a moment to look at it before I present yet another diagram. If anybody on the board has a question to that particular diagram, we can answer it.
Which one?
The orange one that we sent out about the story, the half story. This one right here on the
This diagram.
You say that the height at each floor will only be 7 feet? Or the height in the attic?
The
is 7
attic, the height of the attic.
Yeah. Therefore, it wouldn't contribute to an overall gross floor area, so the FAR would in fact be within
In
rights.
other words, the space would not be livable.
Exactly.
Yes.
So again, that's just, go ahead.
I was going to say, not only by code, it's not habitable space. There's not going to be habitable space there. It's going to be an attic.
Right, so the storage space.
So,
There's also another graphic that we're going to hand out now, if that's okay, and a little bit of what Mr. Bruin had explained in the beginning is that the proposed residence that we have in front of you today is actually showcasing a bit of a retreat from the parallel offsets from the existing building. So the existing structures, setbacks, we're actually proposing a structure that comes within that side. So we're going to hand that out and we can go through it one at a time. You see when you all get it, it will look like this. Okay. The orange graphic that you'll see indicates the existing structure, and the solid dark lines that you would see similar to the survey exist the proposed. Towards the camera.
On the table.
Table. A bit. As you can see, on the north property line, the existing structure, which was 41.8 feet away from the property line on the north, our proposed structure is
39, no, the existing was 41.8, the proposed is 43.7.
43.7. So we're showing a further retreat from that street property line in terms of the proposed structure. On the west property line, to the left of the page, you can see the existing side yard setback from the habitable structure is 14.1 feet, and the proposed side yard setback is now 16.8 feet, showing yet another reduction in the frontage to that street setback because it is a corner property. And finally, on the east side, you can see the existing structure is 12.8 feet from the east property line on the right-hand side of the page, and the proposed habitable structure that we are showcasing today is 16.1 feet, yet another increase to the overall setback.
On the ground floor, we do have a slight bay, a box bay projection at the second floor, and the setback for that is 14.8 feet.
And what's going on downstairs? Is both sides of the house, you have well stairs going downstairs?
Yes, there's a staircase on one side and a well on the other.
No, we have, on the west side of the property, we have a egress stairwell to, that actually services both the sitting area and one of the bedrooms. And on the east side, we have egressable window wells with a ladder that takes you up to a removable grate, all as per New York State code regulations.
So egress is up or down?
From the basement, you're going up.
Oh, from the basement?
Yes,
So you-
yes.
So you're violating the code to have a stairway down there that will be lit, and people can go down there, right?
Yes,
You can have independent people going down there all the time. You can have servants down there, you can have guests, Airbnb going down there, separate entrance into the house. That violates the code.
A separate entrance to the basement?
Correct.
an egressable staircase for New York State code egress.
That's actually required by
It's a
the state.
requirement as per the
Well,
New
you're
York State
still,
regulations.
you're violating the property line rules with it. And,
I believe the staircase is not,
You're into the side yard.
there's some
We've been
debate
having
about
issues
that.
with that.
Having problems with that.
okay, well, is that something the building department thinks is not, it has to meet the setbacks?
We don't know about that, but we're having problems.
When I spoke with the building department, it was, as long as it was within, I think, less than 1 foot from grade and didn't have a big wall.
Yeah, we've done plenty of these before in the village of Southampton. Again, it's not for any means of egress for a third party to occupy the house. It's
How do we know that?
It's all
It's-
part of the dwelling. It's not-
part of the single dwelling. We're not here for a
One of the
multi-story.
problems
or-
we're having with these egress, like staircases are not supposed to be counted, but if you look at the bottom, you actually have a little courtyard down there where somebody could have a table and chairs. So people have been increasing the size of these areaways and actually having below-ground sitting areas, so they get more light into the place, more into the place, but it's sort of like it's a stretch on what the spirit of the law is supposed to be. You also have the supposed covered porch, but that is also closer.
I was going to mention that the one aspect that wasn't mentioned is the covered porch, which if you look at the elevations, you'll see there's an entryway door on that corner, as well as a sliding glass door on the south side, and the porch actually is just wide enough to provide shelter from the elements for those two doorways. I have reviewed this with both our architects and our client, and if necessary, that could be made to go, it's 13.9, where the existing is 14.1. They can take that and make that 14.1
Yeah,
within that setback.
Yeah, we could certainly make that adjustment, and we've all agreed that we can do that.
In addition, we can pull in some of the
In addition,
window wells and
if that
minimum code requirements.
0.26 feet, I believe, is the actual number of reduction from the west side property line, so would the wall that identifies the stairwell that's for fire egress and safety regulations. So if we shift that west property, if we shift that covered deck 2.26 feet, we'll also shift the wall that's identified here in the lower area. As you can see, this is
It would decrease the size.
it would decrease the size as well, so therefore there'd be a decrease both in that little area, which is more of a vestibule for egress, as well as the deck above. So we can do that.
So I think we need a minimum of 3 feet outside of the clear opening of that window, in order to egress. I may not have that figure correct, but I believe it's close. So we
Yeah,
could pull
36
that.
inches.
What's that?
But the .26 feet that we would reduce from the west side wouldn't affect our actual clearances for egress from New York State Fire Code, but we'll check on that.
And then the other side where the windows, you need 3 feet. I think that's what the code is for.
Yes, yes. And we have that, here.
Yeah, you have that there.
Yeah.
You show, I think, 4 parking places for five bedrooms, is that correct? And is that what the code is? What would the code be for 6 bedrooms? Was it still 4?
5, we need 5.
Because that playroom,
Could be a bedroom.
so I'm a little concerned about that.
I only see 3 here. Oh, here's the fourth one over
Right.
here on the side. Yeah. They're showing 4, so that would fit the 5 bedrooms.
And we've also,
If you counted that playroom as a bedroom, that would be 6 bedrooms.
Yes.
There was no window.
there's no, in terms of the playroom being a bedroom, there's
There's an egress window.
There's an egress door, but it's not
Right,
noted as a
egress door.
bedroom, and it won't be noted that way on the health department application. And that's what we're not proposing.
It's just that
as a bedroom.
sometimes they'll count it if it, yeah, do you have health department approval yet?
No, but I have consulted with our representatives that deal with the health department as well as the Village of Southampton in terms of what we are proposing.
Are
And
you going to put the septic under the parking? Will they let you do that?
yes, they will with a covenant filed from the Suffolk County Health Department. Absolutely. Do it all the time.
Currently, the septic is off the southeast corner of the house.
Quite old, I'm sure.
Yes, very old. It would be upgraded as well as put into conforming location for the health department, which is in the front yard. So I'd ask the gentleman the concept behind the pool equipment shed and
Can I just
maybe
close? I just want to close.
What about the pool equipment? What about the pool?
What about the pool?
I just wanted to add one more thing, the health department. I've been involved with the health department for many years in terms of their old interpretations as well as their new interpretations of bedrooms, and the ability of giving a client a den and a living room would accommodate that playroom in itself. Anything more, if you had 2 dens and a living room,
Okay.
they would count that. So
Or library or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, and I know, I was there when they actually modified that law. I know it created a lot of hardship, but this application is within the spirit of that law.
Now, you've got a very small lot.
Yes,
There's a house there now. It's a buildable lot. You're entitled to a home.
yes.
You've got a pool that needs relief from the west, the east, and the south.
Yes, and it's a very
And a
small.
pool house, or whatever it is, shed is even worse.
Well, let me
I'm sure
talk.
you just heard us talk to the application.
Oh, I did,
you
yes,
know?
absolutely.
We're coming down on pools
Oh,
that
no,
don't
no,
meet the
that's,
setbacks.
I understand.
You're entitled to a house, but you're not entitled to a pool.
I understand that. I
I
understand.
don't have, with that roof corrections, I really don't have any problem with the house. I'm having a problem with the pool right now.
Well, we have a few suggestions that we've consulted with our attorney and with
Meet
our
the 20
clients.
feet, meet the 70, whatever it is, and you'll have a pool.
We, to start off, the proposed pool right now being 12 by 25, obviously, is not of a typical size of a pool, more being of 18 by 45. So already with this proposal, we understand that this pool is not going to be of a major size or even a size that is acceptable to most people who want a pool. Though we did consult with our client, and we understand that the law, and Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, without the street setback, just staying 20 feet to a minimum from the actual setbacks is more of the minimum requirement. We are actually okay with decreasing the length of the pool by 30 inches, which would retreat it from the east and west property line, creating a 20-foot minimum setback, and shifting the pool towards the north the additional 3 feet to allow that also to be 20 feet. So that would be a compromise that we'd offer the board today in terms of actually
There are
moving
some
forward.
properties that just can't handle a pool. This is one of them. It's
you
a
know-
tiny piece of property.
I feel that the small scale of the pool is not going to outweigh the...
Pool is a pool is a pool.
It is, but it is now, especially with another reduction in terms of its overall length, would be now also only a 4-foot deep pool. This would not be a pool where diving and large activities of that nature would take place, so there would be no splashing of that regard from a major standpoint of diving off a diving board. It would be only 4 feet shallow, and we'd reduce it an additional 30 inches. So I would hope that the board would look upon that as an additional sort of proposal to relieve your thoughts of the
You know how many
impact.
pool applications we've had in the last 6 months that didn't meet the setbacks?
Sure, a lot.
What do you think happened to every one of them?
I hope not what is going to happen here.
They went down.
Well, one of the problems too is you show the patio on the south end of the pool, which puts the end of that patio, maybe 8 or 9 feet from the property line, and that's where, you'll have your lawn chairs and a lot of entertainment and things go down, and that's one of that makes a stronger impact of the pool, not just the activity in the pool, it's the activity around the pool.
Oh, you're talking about the grass set pavers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you're going to have table, umbrellas, lawn chairs, so...
they can be removed.
We don't have a police force in the building department that goes down and say, did you move that chair? Did you move that?
Well, but anything that's on...
Nobody's going to go down and say, move it.
Yes, but anything that's on the proposed survey, of course, is written into law and is a part of the application to the building department, which is subject to many days ahead of inspections or updated certificate of occupancy. So everything that's on a survey, as Rick knows, will be, written into the law and stated as such.
Well, it's
So-
not, I don't think they're talking about necessarily just the grass set pavers. There's also a proposed patio that will be,
If we end if we shift the pool and...
the patio will be how far from the street?
The patio between the house and the pool.
14 feet, it looks like.
A patio that's goes further west than the pool.
Right, to the north of the pool, in between the house.
Yes.
Yeah, that one is approximately 14 feet. So I
Correct me
understand
if
you
I'm
have
wrong,
some
but I think
comments
there's
and
some comments
concerns.
from the board that maybe you should increase the setback of the patio from the street.
We have several letters in opposition. One from a Dr. Keith Mobilia, who lives at 21 Platt Terrace.
I read
One from
this.
Andrew Littman, 64 South Hill Street. And one from William N. Guy, who lives across the street, I believe.
To the north and west, across
Yeah.
the street on Platt Terrace.
And there's
Mr.
another
Lippman
one coming in
owns
from a
directly to
neighbor
the
to
east.
the south, I'm told.
We've seen the letters, and Mr. Bregman is here, and as I indicated at the beginning, we understand, we've heard some comments. We'll go back to our client and discuss the comments we heard here and any that were raised by the public. Just want to point out other things for the record. We did find other properties that received similar variances, particular Margot Horn right on the corner of South Hill Street, right down the street. Her pool
How
received
long ago was
substantial
that?
relief.
How long ago was that?
I can pull it out, but it was several years ago, but still.
1952 or so?
No, actually, I believe,
Her house has been there a long time.
yeah, but I think the relief your board granted was
81.
1981.
Oh, that's 35. That's 4 years before my time, Wayne.
Well, in any case, the relief was granted, and that is part of the character of the neighborhood. I did provide you with those
People who were on the board at that
copies.
time were probably out off of Route 39 now.
In any case, I think we've heard your comments, and like I indicated before, we understand that based on those letters, that they actually want to review the plans and provide other comment at a later date, and based on that, we can go back to our client, take all these comments, and present something back to you at the next meeting.
I mean, we don't mean to sound harsh, but we're getting these pool applications month after month after month, 10 feet, 15 feet. If you want a pool, you need a larger piece of property. I mean, I'm certainly not against pools. I was in the pool business for 30 years, so I'm not against pools.
And it is a common, practically every lot here, except for the one, I believe, across the street and to the north doesn't have a pool. I mean, everybody else has a pool.
They're larger
A lot that
lots.
doesn't have a pool. But
The larger
nonetheless,
lots,
we
the pools
understand what the
conform.
board's
They'll
concern.
conform. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard to this application?
Good evening.
morning, Eric Bregman, Farrell Fritz. I represent Mr. Dye and Mr. Lipman, and I may be representing some of the other neighbors. I'm only here to ask that it be adjourned so that they can move it further and make arrangements to be here in person if they feel appropriate.
Yeah, because I think they just got the notice.
Yes.
Just within the last week.
Yes. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Therefore, we're going to hold this one open, right? Oh, wait a minute, somebody does want to speak.
I'm Margot Horn.
Yeah, with the mic coming up so we can get it on film.
That's nice. I want to stay off the camera. Okay. What do you want me to do? Never do.
The microphone is there.
What?
The microphone is right
Oh,
there.
I see that. But my voice is loud enough. I really don't need a mic. Okay. I built the house in 1981 and had a problem with the board trying to get a pool in there. And I had a problem with Mr. Lord, who said, well, she doesn't need a pool. I said, I need it for my mother to swim in. Well, that's too bad, he said, you know. And then the board said, well, you either have a pool or you have a garage. And I have a garage, and I have a much smaller house. And it's one story, and it's not as tall. I don't know how tall this house is going to be. How high is it?
2 stories.
Well, I mean, how
2.5
many
stories.
feet?
Within the regulations.
Within the
I
regulation.
mean, within the max of the
It's
regulation,
going to
like
be
the
less than
house across the
35, or
street.
is it 35? No, it's less than 35.
30 would be the maximum.
Less than 30.
Less than 30.
Less than 30, I'm not quite sure how tall my house is, but it looks like,
You have like a 1-story house, don't you?
well, yeah, but it has an attic.
Oh, okay.
13 feet.
I mean, You've been in it, so you know, my neighbor. Okay, all right, well, that's all I have to say, you know, I mean, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We have anybody else who'd like to be heard? Therefore, we're going to hold this one open for all purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. And this, Charlie, the time is a record. Want to note that?
No, it's not a
All-time record.
You haven't adjourned it yet. You haven't
I'm going to
adjourned
adjourn it right now. I move that this meeting of the South End Village Zoning Board of Appeals, January 2017, be closed.
Oh, you.